President Buhari reiterates homegrown policies targeted at food security.
Senate President says planned protests over proposed removal of fuel subsidy uncalled for.
House of Representatives to introduce Electoral Act Amendment Bill to address concerns raised in the provision for direct primaries.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall be scrutinizing the rice revolution in Nigeria.
Some years back, Nigeria was leading other African countries in the importation of rice, costing the nation millions of dollars in forex. This led to a depletion of the foreign reserve, among other negative impacts on the nation as a whole.
Well, matters were made worse by the crash in the price of crude oil, and insecurity had also reared its head as a result of farmers and herders clashes, and all of that prevented people from going about their daily lawful activities on the farms.
Now, today the story is different, as locally produced rice now dominates rice markets in Nigeria, as Nigerians are beginning to appreciate the relevance of eating homegrown food, thereby rekindling confidence in the local rice farmer and the rebirth of a functional and effective value chain created through rice farming business.
Not only that, Kyrian, Nigerians now appear to be more enlightened, as it were, and are cautious about the health implications of consuming imported food, especially rice, most of which we understand contain preservatives, or otherwise the products are expired and they found their way into our markets.
All thanks to President Buhari's insistence on Nigeria's Eating and Buying Nigeria initiative as a way of saving the nation's economy from depletion. The citizens from the pangs of starvation and the market from importation of foreign rice laced with various hazardous preservatives detrimental to human health.
Now, the government's support to farmers through the Central Bank of Nigeria, where, of course, you have the Anchor Borrowers Program, as well as a number of other initiatives, have tended to increase the yield per hectare. And, of course, what we are seeing today is the outcome of those initiatives.
All right. And this did not only engage the nation's youths productively, as many now divert into farming as a means of livelihood. As at 2020, it was reported that Nigeria produced over 8 million metric tons of milled rice in a year, surpassing the outputs of Egypt and other nations on the African continent.
Well, this initiative, according to experts, has saved Nigeria from hunger. And of course, this is what was partly witnessed during the lockdown over the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. Now, this is because as other countries were playing protectionist policies with food export, Nigeria, as it were, was able to feed on what she produces. There was enough food to satisfy the people. That's according to one account.
This I will call a success story and a pride of the nation's ability to cater for herself, where political will is sturdy and robust. But for how long will this success story last, and what can be done to sustain this eating story, or elating story rather, of the rice revolution in Nigeria? The program Good Morning Nigeria will take a leap into the way forward for the sustainability of the feed. Thank you for taking time to be with us this morning on the program. My name is Kyrian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to another edition of the good program, Good Morning Nigeria, live on NTA's network service as we'll discuss a rice revolution in Nigeria. Of course, we'll be taking a look at the various ramifications of that revolution, and as Kirian also indicated, how sustainable it should be and it could be. We, of course, have our complimentary segments, and those will include newspaper review and business. Right now, here's Dennis Adegunloye, who has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Kieran. Good morning, Nigerians. Here is the morning news. The FCT mega rice pyramids, considered the largest in Africa, have been unveiled by President Muhammadu Buhari. They are the product of his administration's rice revolution drive, powered by the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The president described the pyramids as a clear indication that the homegrown policies targeted at securing food for all Nigerians is achieving the desired objectives.
It's no doubt a testament to the fact that the Anchor Borrowers Program is working. Our country is making steady and assured progress towards self-sufficiency in food production as a critical policy.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari is described as a worrisome escalation the drone strikes in the United Arab Emirates that's caused explosions and a deadly fire outside the capital, Abu Dhabi. In a reaction to the incident on Monday, President Buhari said such attacks targeting innocent people and civilian structure leading to the loss of lives were condemnable by all reasonable opinions around the globe and should be stopped. A statement by the senior special assistant to the president said President Buhari condoled with the people and government of the UAE on behalf of the governments and people of Nigeria and urged restraint to give dialogue and engagement a chance. And President Muhammadu Buhari will depart Abuja today for Banjul, Republic of Gambia, to attend the inauguration of Gambian President Adama Barrow following his re-election for a second term. On the invitation of his host, President Buhari will be special guest of honor at the ceremonies to be attended by other African leaders at the Independence Stadium, Bakau. The president will be accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema. The National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongonu, retired, Director General, National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai, and other top government officials. The president is expected back in the country at the end of the inauguration ceremonies. Senate President Ahmed Lawan is assuring Nigerians that the Buhari presidency is yet to take any definite stand on the nation's fuel subsidy regime, and therefore the planned protests by the organized labor over rumors on proposed removal of fuel subsidy is uncalled for. Addressing journalists after an audience with the president, Senator Lawan stated unequivocally that the Nigerian leader will not transfer the burden of the cost of subsidy to the citizens.
To inform Nigerians that Mr. President never told anyone that the petroleum subsidy should be removed. I want to commend Mr. President for still keeping this philosophy of ensuring that the most ordinary Nigerian does not suffer in any way.
And the Senate is to strengthen its instruments of oversight on budget implementation in order to ensure increased revenue generation and puts a stop to borrowing. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, stated this when he welcomed his colleagues back from the Christmas and New Year holidays.
The Senate will develop a strategy of engagement with revenue-generating agencies on how to make them achieve their targets and generate more revenues in 2022. On the Electoral Act 2010, having consulted, the Senate will expeditiously look into the issue.
The House of Representatives is to introduce the Electoral Act Amendment Bill later today to address concerns raised, in particular the provision for direct primaries to nominate candidates to contest elective positions. The President had in December 2021 communicated to the National Assembly his decision withholding assent to the bill, detailing the security, financial and legal implications of the provision.
Including a direct primary mandate in the law would have forced political parties to properly register their members within the shortest possible time. This would have been the singular most significant reform of our political primary system, party system, in a generation.
As the federal government, through the Ministry of Aviation, is doing all it takes to repair the Gembu airstrip on the Mambila Plateau, Taraba State, the Mambila Air is set to recommence operations in the axis using helicopters pending fixing of the airstrip.
There has been news all over the place that the Mambila Dam is coming up. And as you can see, traveling from Jalingo to Gembu is 8 hours or more if you have a bad car. Many people would like to come here very fast and go very fast.
First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has called on Nigerian women to redouble their efforts and continue to show greater interest and commitment to governance and other decision-making processes for the good of the country. The First Lady, who stated this at the APC National Women Conference, also unveiled the APC Progressive Women Academy mobile app.
Is being held to establish our commitment to strengthen the position of women in matters of national importance, especially in increasing the visibility of women, positioning women for future political offices, and encouraging them to inspire more towards the progress of our great party.
The timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections will be released once the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is signed into law. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu gave the assurance in Abuja during a meeting with chairmen of the political parties.
2023 general election is just 396 days away. All the critical preparations must be concluded this year.
The increasing number of secondary school graduates necessitated the establishment of 8 new federal polytechnics and 6 federal colleges of education in 2021 to accommodate more Nigerians. These new institutions now have governing councils inaugurated by the Minister of Education, Adamu.
The Council shall be the governing body of the institution with powers of general control and superintendence over the policy, the finance, and the safeguard of properties of the institution.
Well, those are the highlights of the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues after this break with Kingsley and Kirian. Have a great day.
COVID-19, that is the black swan of the century, has actually hit the whole world very hard, even the strongest of economies, and Nigeria was not spared. But due to the proactive stance and steps that the president has taken, we've been able to come out quickly. The president has consistently said we must invest in infrastructure, even as we're investing in human capital, that we must invest in infrastructure, because at the end of the day, that is what will bring about a sustainable economic growth. So the president has given us our directive. He has said you must make sure you pay salaries and pay pensions, but you also make sure that the critical projects of roads, railway, airports, bridges, major infrastructure that are meant to drive the growth of the economy, that we consistently invest in them, even if we have to continue to borrow to do so.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Everybody knows the secret to good cooking is that special ingredient. The mothers know it, but does this new generation know it? Let's find out. Mothers, daughters, are you ready? Yes! Let the cooking begin.
Erisco tomato paste.
Now we get home, now we get love,
now we get children.
With a spice the world,
with a meal so great and so healthy.
You know we've got your back. Oh, with Erisco, Rigico, Nagico.
Ladies and gentlemen, food is ready.
Food of love.
I love you, Bellu.
Rigico tomato paste.
Hi, na kwa sheba yali na da.
yum yum.
Erisco Rigico and Nagico tomato paste is made by Erisco Foods Limited, feeding Africans with healthy foods.
See, nurse, she's saying she feels unwell despite my efforts to practice good hygiene.
Mom says wash your hands to keep the germs away.
Washing hands is good, but surfaces can also have germs, and you shouldn't use just anything for cleaning them. Use Jik. Jik's formula has been scientifically proven to stay active for longer, giving you whitening and germ kill protection on a variety of surfaces. Disinfect to protect, just Jik it. Endorsed by National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives.
The ever-busy ancient city of Onitsha is a commercial hub with millions of commuters seamlessly linking other states daily for business, leisure, and other purposes. To upscale its road network, the construction of a 1.6-kilometer-long second Niger bridge, including a 10.3-kilometer highway furnished with other infrastructure, has been in motion by the federal government. This project will ease congestion on the existing 56-year-old Onitsha bridge and boost the economic capacity of the state as it easily connects to other parts of the country. The completion of the world-class second Niger Bridge Onitsha will be one of the many proud moments of the state, its people, Nigerians, and foreign investors. Onitsha, which hosts the largest market in Africa, is geared up to boast of an impressive road network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government, and it is deserving of all the applause.
The counsel of our fathers.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of NTA. And now let's go business. In spite of some challenges, Nigeria's oil production will hit 1.7 million barrels per day in 2022. Let's now join Aleka Obanachi Arwa for details.
A new report by Cardinal Stone Research has indicated a forward leap for the industry in 2022, aided by progress across the upstream, midstream, and downstream subsectors. The firm stated that in the upstream, oil production is likely to be positively impacted by increased drilling activities and steady oil prices. In addition, the firm stated that refinery projects are also slated to reach key milestones in the midstream and the coming on board of a private refinery in mid-2022. This view, they maintained, is also premised on the expected impact of elevated oil prices, which is incentivizing drilling activities across board, as demonstrated by the gradual increase in rig counts since the end of June 2021. The report also notes that the imminent launch of the 160,000 barrel per day Amukpe Escravos export terminal could support production, as it offers an alternative to the Transforcados pipeline, which had a 74.0% uptime in the first 9 months of 2021. With business news, Alika Opanachi Arwa.
Thank you very much, Alika, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next is Newspaper Review.
All right, it's now time for newspaper review. And of course, Councillor Bayo is not here with us today.
That's right. So we'll take the papers we have in turn. We have The Nation, Leadership, and I believe you also have the Daily Sun newspaper. Let's begin by taking a look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper. That will be the first. We shall be taking a look at Leadership newspaper. Nigeria is becoming self-sufficient in food production, and that is attributed to President Muhammadu Buhari. With a rider, we have achieved 9 million metric tons in rice production, and that's attributed to the central bank governor. 2023, no electoral law, no election timetable, INEC wants. That's the double-decker headline for the lead story. Details on page 4. And says passage of bill crucial to preparation. Will expedite action on bill, that's Lawan, Senate President, and reps reconsider bill today as Senate concludes consultation. Bandits attacked 300 Niger communities, kidnapped 200 in 16 days. That's on page 6. Bandits attacked 300 Niger communities and kidnapped 200 in 16 days. President Buhari never directed removal of fuel subsidy. That's according to Lawan. And Kano, that's Nnamdi Kano, declines to take plea on fresh terrorism charges. Server failure slows down NIN registration. And progressives women seek better deal from APC. Oshibajo urges Nigerians to imbibe Sardauna's virtues. That's on page 6. Carry on.
All right, let's turn to the Daily Sun newspaper. Ugwuanyi empowers Enugu youth through cybersecurity training, as on page 27. National Assembly dumps plan to override Buhari revisits electoral bill, likely to pass bill today. INEC blamed delay in release of 2023 timetable on non-passage of the bill, as on page 6. 220 killed in 17 days in Niger State, according to Governor Bello of that state. Matawale seeks more efforts to tackle banditry in Zamfara, as on page 30. Kidnapping. Oyo CP visits flashpoints on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, as on page 27. 2023, Aisha Buhari tasks APC on giving women vital positions, as on page 28. Federal government launches rice pyramids, promises drop in price. It's also on page 28. Kano IPOP ground southeast as Ozekome joins defense team. The story is on pages 4 and 30 of the Daily Sun newspaper.
Here, let's also take a look at the front page of The Nation. Now, above the nameplate of The Nation, you have the headlines. No decision yet on petrol subsidy removal, says Lawan. That's page 7. 2023, coalition begins lobby for Jonathan. And Moses Ayom writes Buhari, that's the writer, with that 300 killed, 200 abducted in Niger within 2 weeks. 300 killed, 200 abducted in Niger within 2 weeks. That's on page 3. And below the nameplate, and that's the lead story with a double-decker headline, how governors foiled plot to scuttle APC convention. New leaders to be elected February 26th, and Buhari's support sealed date. Nigeria on food sufficiency path, says Buhari, and 1 trillion naira sunk into rice production. You can see the photograph there on the front page, with dignitaries including President Muhammadu Buhari standing before one of the rice pyramids unveiled in the Federal Capital Territory yesterday. President to get reworked electoral bill this week. And Lawan raises hope, Senate and House begin work. And then right at the foot of the front page, Kano APC crisis, appeal court schedules hearing for Friday. And oil firms relocate offshore. Details on page 7. Kieran, those are the stories that we have on the front pages of the papers. Incidentally, we're discussing the rice issue in our conversation segment on the program today.
The one that really attracts my attention, is this issue of banditry in Niger State. It's becoming one too many. Over 200 killed and about the same number of people kidnapped. The way they do this with success is what is bothering me. And they're now operating without being checkmated by the security operatives in that area. Because, they do it with ease. And sometimes in the broad daylight, not even late in the late hours. The last time we had was about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So,
that's right, Kirian. We cannot squabble over the exact numbers of persons who are killed, because the Daily Sun is reporting 220. The Nation is reporting 300 killed and 200 abducted in Niger within 2 weeks. Whatever the number is, provided at least it is one individual who has lost his or her life to bandits, it should be worrisome. And when you add that to what is also happening in Zamfara, if you recall, there was some issue about whether the appropriate figures were reported. Some said 200. The governor came out to say there were about 50 persons. Why is it that there are such rampant killings in those places? And what can further be done to stem the tide? We know that the security forces are out there. The military, of course, is in various parts of the country. They have deployed most of their platforms, including the kinetic platforms, to deal with these bandits. And more essentially, what is their modus operandi? How do they operate? How come they tend to operate with ease and then just take off? I recognize the fact that the land area in Niger is extensive. And if you remember, Kirian, some Islamic school pupils were kidnapped for several months in some rural location in Niger. And it took them quite a while. One of the kids, about 3 or 4 years old, lifeless body, was found after he was dumped. Those rural peasants had to sell off whatever they had to pay the ransom, which was also rejected at some point by the bandits. The question should be, why is it that bandits in Niger and Zamfara still, as it were, have a free reign?
Exactly, and the last incident, they were requesting some liters of fuel. You see, they have the audacity to be making some requests. In some other case, it was wanted some bags of rice and condiments, for the food items. So this time around, they are looking for some liters of fuel, of course, to power their bikes, which they use very extensively. I think the military should actually apply some, deploy some technology, because of the land mass, of the area, to see if technology can assist them in terms of locating, the whereabouts of these elements. And again, to be able to perhaps, have an idea when they begin their operation. If they have good satellites, set in that area, obviously whatever movement they make will be seen via satellites. I don't know whether they have the capacity and capability to deploy such a technology to do that, because otherwise these guys will always have their way.
Kirian, the argument can also be made that the audacity that the bandits are now displaying is probably a fallout of their frustration with the various measures put in place to frustrate their activities, namely cut off their logistics. That's to say, they don't have access to fuel supplies, as we saw some time ago in Katsina, where an embargo was imposed, markets closed, and so on and so forth. But the fact that they are getting more daring and coming into the public space to be demanding for supplies means that these are persons who are readily identifiable. But how much cooperation can we continue to get from the locals themselves? Because it is also sometimes reported that some locals are said to be collaborating with the bandits, giving them information. And this is in addition to the fact that there is protection racketeering, because they are collecting levies from this person. And the point was made some months ago, that was late last year, that it appeared that apart from the bandits, some Boko Haram elements were setting up camps in and around some localities in Niger. So what has been done with regard to that? On the aspect of the military getting in, I think that fair enough, we rely on our military, but we should begin to also de-escalate our demands on the military. We have some 20-something security and defense agencies in Nigeria. Ordinarily, when you say that you have this kind of crisis, as it were, banditry crisis in a certain part of the country, you deploy the other agencies. You have a good number of them. What is it that they are doing?
They're doing exactly. Now, this issue of electoral bill, the INEC has just said that it will delay the release of electoral election timetable, because the bill has not been passed. But I'm just wondering, we already have dates for handover power, as it were. So for me, determining the election date, I don't know whether it has any link to the electoral bill being passed. Because already there's a terminal date for this administration, and there's also a period of time when the election should hold. Before perhaps swearing in and what have you. Those dates are there. They're sacrosanct, right? So why wouldn't they give Nigerians the electoral election dates, timetable rather?
Well, I think that it probably would be unfair to assume that this is an act of blackmail by INEC. But INEC says that it needs proper guidance for functioning in terms of other aspects of its preparations for the general elections coming up next year. And that proper guidance will come from the law itself, which is the Electoral Act. That is supposed, of course, to guide it. And part of what we saw in 2015 was that the Electoral Act that was amended at that time could not, of course, skate through because it was deemed to be too close to the elections. And you should have a lead time of at least 6 months before the elections to have all of those things sorted out. It is not just the provision on direct primaries or otherwise that is critical. There are several other critical provisions in the electoral amendment bill that will guide the activities and operations of INEC itself.
I will agree with you in terms of operations, but then on the dates of election, or timetable for election, maybe the date for House of Reps or National Assembly, but what does it have to do with operations? Just dates.
If you recall, Kira, if you recall, on Good Morning Nigeria, 4 years, almost 4 years or so ago, there was heated debate over the powers to indicate the timetable for elections or the order for elections, whether it will be presidential election that will come first or whether it will be the State House of Assembly elections that will come first. That was one of the clauses that we had in the amendment bill for the Electoral Act ahead of the 2015 election. And
is it part of what will happen?
Well, we don't know because we don't. Why am I saying this? The president has already vetoed the amendment bill. Vetoed, which means that we are in a position of stasis. So the two chambers of the National Assembly say they are going to go back to rework the bill itself, which is to say they are not planning now to override the president's veto. All right. Now, if they rework the bill, are they just going to rework only one or two aspects of it?
Because that is the bone of contention.
No, it's their prerogative. They may choose to now advert their minds to other provisions that they probably didn't...
which they had already passed. Why would they revisit what they already passed?
No. That's why I said it is their prerogative. Because the bill, as it were, the president has already vetoed it. So that bill is in abeyance unless they override the president's veto. A more substantive issue, if you ask me, has to do with the if you like, originality of the copy of the electoral amendment bill that is in circulation. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, presiding over the plenary yesterday, raised the concern that the copy of the bill as passed by the National Assembly forwarded to the President would appear to be different from the bill that is in public circulation. And that is to say that maybe there is another version that is in the public domain. And if you recall, a coalition of civil society groups had issued a statement pointing out what they refer to as cross-referencing errors. Cross-referencing errors, for instance, would be like if you are say section 35 of that provides for this, and this is in reference to section 25 or 35 provides for this, section 25, and there is no connection or relationship between those two sections. No, Kira, just hold. Is there really, if you like, a fake bill in the public domain? Because we had this with the petroleum industry bill for many years. At some point, they said there were 3 or 4 versions that were in the public domain.
Listen, whatever is in the public domain should not concern the National Assembly. They should give us the original document. If the original document is out, perhaps whatever is in circulation is null and void. So, needless, we are paying attention to a nullity. Right, we're expecting to have the original copy of the bill by the time the National Assembly is done with it and is given to the president for him to assent to it. As soon as that is done, the public will now have the original document.
No, Kieran, you see, for public conversation, it is important that you have your facts right. And those facts will emanate from the document that you have. If you know, if you recall, there's been a great deal of energy expended on some of the, if you like, contentious provisions in the bill as passed by the National Assembly. And the legislature is now saying that it looks worrisome that what these persons are discussing do not appear to be in the bill that will pass to the president. In any case, the procedure is, once the legislature has passed a bill, they will transmit it to the president. Transmitting to the president is not a public transaction. It is between the legislature and the president. It is after the president has assented or declined to give his assent that you can now see the document in the public domain.
Yeah, exactly. Because one would even wonder, how did any fake document get to the public? Because of course they originated whatever is there. So how did it leak? As a matter of fact, if it leaked, it must be via the same National Assembly.
No, we can't reach that conclusion because again the Speaker said yesterday that he set up a committee to find out what happened and how it happened, and I think the report of that committee will be useful in guiding further conversations. This is, it's critical because if you and I were to sit down here and then be discussing facts arising from a document which is not original, a document which is fake, we will be expending our energies.
The most important aspect of this, Kingsley, is that when the president declined assent to that document, he pointed to the fact, the areas of his concern. It was so specific, even when you said, look, that I recall one of our programs, you said, look, that constitutionally, that the president must not actually say this is the reason why I'm declining, but he made it clear, say, okay, it's his prerogative. He said, look, this is why I'm declining on this, touch on this aspect. So by the time
Kira, the president declined his accent and gave reasons which is not ordinarily obliged to do. But those reasons he gave included the fact about the direct primaries, and then he articulated the reasons. To say, look, it's anti-democratic, XYZ, allow people to have options, and so on and so forth, cost of conducting primaries, and all of that, but not with the substance of, if you like, fake documents that are out there in the public domain. APC, at last, has now indicated that its convention will take place on the 26th of February, and arising from that convention, they will then have substantive officers to continue to run its affairs.
But we hope that between now and then that somebody will not go to court because this has been the trend, over the years, not just for APC, other political parties. There's never been a time when a party has planned to do a convention that some disgruntled members did not go to court to try to stop it, right? And
well, if they choose to go to court, it will be their right. But it is the outcome of the litigation that is important. Already in the Federal Capital Territory, there are billboards of aspirants to various positions in the APC. One account by the Punch newspaper, we don't have that right here with us, I read that online, is to say that the APC has zoned its chairmanship position to the North Central. Again, that's almost like the difference between 6 and half a dozen. PDP has its chairman
from the North Central.
And the billboards of persons who are seeking to be chairman of the APC are showing candidates from other parts,
from Northeast,
from the Northeast and other parts of the country.
Well, as it unfolds, let's see what happens, when it unfolds, because from conventions you'll be able to, know the direction the parties are going, in terms of who gets what, after the convention, because after the positions must have been shared in the party hierarchy, that will now determine where their presidential candidate, will emerge from.
That's right.
But by then Nigerians will be so sure to say, look, it's coming from the south or from the north for both parties.
That's right. All right, Kyria, just before we wrap up the newspaper review segment, the African Cup of Nations is taking place in Cameroon. Last night there was a huge upset, and that upset speaks to the fact that there are no minions anymore in soccer. Comoros Island defeated Ghana.
Debutants, for that matter.
Absolutely, playing for the first time. Defeated Ghana 3-2. In fact, they were ahead 2-0 before Ghana put it back, and then they sealed it. Comoros, and of course knocked out Ghana in the round-robin stage. So Ghana out of Cup of Nations. They are 4-time champions. Today the Super Eagles will be taking on Guinea-Bissau.
Honestly, for Ghana to live at this stage, it's really unbelievable that Ghana could live. And today's match between Nigeria and the Guinea-Bissau, well, I keep saying that our boys are good, no doubt about that, but the point is that there are no babies now in football, and
take nothing for granted,
exactly,
take no one for
granted. They have
granted.
to be careful with the Guinea-Bissau because they also want to qualify, and they said they will do everything possible to stop the Super Eagles, and it's a possibility.
Well, the Super Eagles are already through to the next round.
Exactly, but that doesn't mean we should come and lose at this level.
No. I mean, it's certain that the Super Eagles should continue to improve on their record, and we'll see how things go. So, in the absence of any other thing else that we want to have time to speak on the newspaper review segment, we'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be dealing with our conversation segment.
The Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, avails more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the state.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards. Arise, O Nigerians! Let's applaud the courage of Flight Lieutenant Abayomi Dairo, aka the Aggressor, for his skillful and dogged escape from the bloodthirsty bandits in the forest of Zamfara State. 3 hearty cheers also to all military and security personnel who are tirelessly protecting fellow Nigerians from insurgency and banditry while maintaining peace and order. Nigerians are proud of Abayomi Dairo and all our gallant men and women in uniform for sacrificing so much to keep us safe. We admire your courage and we say thank you. God bless the armed forces. God bless Nigeria. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The NOA, for example, has succeeded a great deal in sensitization during the pandemic, and we have found the community mobilization officers most effective in the sensitization and in the advocacy campaigns, creating awareness on the coronavirus pandemic. We have done this through the production of jingles, which were very widely distributed in different languages, in English, in Hausa, in Yoruba, in Igbo, in Tiv, in Igala, in Kanuri, in Fulfulde, in Ijo, in Isoko, in Bini, in talk of any other language you can think of. We had translated sensitization messages.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, Let's build our nation together.
All right, thank you for being part of our show this morning. And before we begin the conversation, let's bring in Musa Baba Aliu, who is standing by with a background report on the topic of the day, rice revolution in Nigeria.
It was a journey that started 7 years ago with President Muhammadu Buhari sowing some grains in Kebbi State. Statistics provided by the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that as at December 2021, 4,400,000 farmers were financially supported. Integrated rice milling industries increased from functional 6 in 2015 to about 200 in 2021. This has reduced the importation of processed rice from other countries, such as Thailand, to nearly zero.
By 2016, rice imports from Thailand have fallen to just only 58,000 metric tons. As at the end of 2021, they only exported 2,160 metric tons of rice to Nigeria, thereby saving Nigeria foreign exchange and helping to preserve jobs for our people.
With Thailand recording zero importation of rice into Nigeria, the country has pledged to key into the Nigeria's Rice Revolution project. This, the representative said, will include the establishment of milling industries in the country.
Thailand is cooperating seriously with the Nigerian government and any other business stakeholder of agribusiness in Nigeria. So to give them the Thai technology, the know-how of rice production.
We've been having several meetings with the National President of Rice Farmer Association on the area of technology transfer from Thailand to see how we can bring improved seed that is not in the Thailand market.
The efforts of smallholder farmers, who are the major producers of food consumed in the country, were recognized by key players, including some state governors.
That is why we, as Nigerians, have taken to heart our father, President Muhammadu Buhari's charge, that we should grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
Feeding Africa and feeding Nigeria is a key to success. Banning importation of food, we as lawmakers, we are ready to support any small farmers holders.
As the 2022 dry season commences, the Central Bank and Farmers Association agreed to scale up production as directed by the President.
All right, thank you very much there for the background report. We have with us in the Abuja studios two guests. First, let's welcome Shehu Muazu. Shehu Muazu is Director of Operations of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. Right, Shehu, pleasure to have you this morning.
Good morning, it's a pleasure.
Okay. And we also have with us in the studios Muhammad Ali Baba, is a special assistant to the president of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. Wala Muhammad, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
Right, gentlemen, you're most welcome to the program. I can say we have just been informed that hopefully we are going to be joined via Zoom by the Executive Governor of Borno State, David Umahi. As soon as we get him connected, we'll also introduce him to be part of this conversation. All right, talking about rice revolution, it's like a new dawn, you know, if you ask me, because over the years we've had all manner of economic strategies in the past. As a matter of fact, there was a time we had the best crop of economies in the previous governments in this country. Yet we were great importers of staple food such as rice. Now that we have arrived at a point where we're now saying, talking about rice revolution, let me get your take first. Shehu Muazu, Director of Operations, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. How did we get here?
Well, how we got here is this. You see, nations are built by visionary leadership and the followership of the patriotic citizens. The president has earmarked his vision to make Nigeria self-sufficient as far as food is concerned. And the ordinary Nigerian farmer has keyed into that vision of Mr. President. That is why we are here. The essence every other time is to believe in the visions of your leaders and follow them. That's how great leaders are, how great nations are built. That is how successes are recorded in all over the nations that have become great in the world.
And a follow-up to that question would be, is there indeed a rice revolution in Nigeria? And if so, what are the facts?
There is indeed a rice revolution in Nigeria. The rice pyramids we have displayed is one factor. During the COVID-19, all borders of all nations are closed, but still Nigerians eat rice. You still go to the Nigerian market and find rice, and no rice is coming into Nigeria. That tells you that there is an astronomical rise increase in the production of rice. In fact, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the world, of the United Nations, have agreed that Nigeria, as at today, is the largest producer of rice in Africa. So that is it. You have seen the ambassador of Thailand there. They were in our office. They told us, yes, you guys, we know you can never come to our country to import rice. Please let us partner in the area of value addition. The Benin government has signed an MOU with the Refiners and Association. They have agreed that yes, rice is no longer coming to Nigeria through Benin. So please come and tell us how you have achieved that and translate what you have done to our own farmers. Very soon next week we'll be in Benin Republic to start the process. So we are there.
Okay, and Muhammad Ali Baba, let's also have your take on this. Yeah. What data buttress the fact that we are in a revolution season with regard to rice production?
Yeah. Anyway, shortly before the president came on board, the CBN had a list of 41 items that were banned from receiving forex allocation. And top on the list of that were food items. And
Which
of course,
president are you referring to?
President Muhammadu Buhari, I said shortly before the launch of this revolution, you know, the CBN circular, and then around that time in 2015, I think, 2014, 2015. So on top of that list were food items. And of course, you know, around that time too, we had, even the few rice mills we had, largely depended on importing brown rice to clean and bag. So when that ban on forex was issued, the pushback was, what happens to our investments? We'll close because we won't have raw materials. And then there was this response. Then between 1.5 to 2 billion was being allocated, was being used to import rice yearly then. Every year, nearly 2 billion was being expended on importation of rice alone.
2 billion naira?
$2 billion was imported. And of course, translated to the current value, that is nearly $1 trillion every year. So, and then since then, even during the CBN governor's speech, he said from then, now it's just a few, did he say from that 2 billion? I think double digit, less than 20 billion presently is the value, $20 billion is the value of the importation into the country. All these years since 2015 now, there has not been any official allocation. So virtually the entire rice we have had here in Nigeria, we have consumed this past 7 years, was produced locally. So that's a fact. And two, around that time, like I said, there were just a few integrated rice mills, less than 6. Now we're heading towards 100. Integrated. Massive integrated rice mill. And then the number is still ballooning. And these are private investment, not government. So we wouldn't say, private investors usually, they do the numbers before they invest. A lot of them, one of them that is building a massive one, you know, there was an anecdote that was revealed. When he met a clergy in Saudi en route to Thailand, and he asked him, what are you doing here? He said he has gone to purchase naira minting machines. So he was wondering, what do you mean? He said, well, he's also going into rice mill because that's the money spinner now. Mm-hmm. So there has been a huge expansion in establishment of rice processing. And of course, increasingly too, the land under cultivation is increasing. Now, membership of refund. Shortly before this revolution came on board, we had nearly a million plus membership. Now we're reaching 12, even at point nearly 20 million membership. And these are all evidences of this revolution. Of course, what was displayed here was simply to re-emphasize that this rice is available, because typically there will still be forces that will be campaigning for reversion to the old past. You know, there was still a push for allocation of forex for some of these millers, and because they felt there wasn't adequate locally produced paddy. So some of these displays were meant to emphasize that once you are interested, there's paddy here, and that the market, I mean, the lands are available, the farmers are also available, and then the resources, because prior to now, the challenge of the average farmer is resources to purchase inputs. Then you have farmers that will go to, I mean, shortly after rainy season, maybe they will rear chicken, cow, I mean, livestock, domestic animals, and which they sell at the next season just to buy a few modules of fertilizer, and then they recycle old seed. They're dependent on this old technology of irrigation. All this became a thing of the past. This same farmer will get hybrid seeds, will get nearly 6 bags of fertilizer, he will get pumping machine, he will get herbicides, and then of course there is improved technology, because this, you know, the most elastic, I think, segment of the economy is the agri sector. So the entire value chain, you have people now investing in acquisition of tractors and rendition of services, power tillers, and a lot of even combined harvesters, you know, lately. So it's been so expansive that every aspect of that rice value chain has created enormous economic opportunities. And then of course, along with it, of course, comes with the employment generation. Because the average hectare that we're talking about it creates nearly 10 to 13 job opportunities. So
gentlemen, when we are having this kind of conversation around an interesting topic such as a rice revolution, we are also, as it were, contributing to the documentation of history. When you're writing the history of a revolution, it's important to have it in a systematic manner, so that a reader, either today or years to come, will have an appreciation of where we were and where we are today, and what happened, what were the causative factors that drove all of this, what were the obstacles, and so on and so forth. And back to Shehu Moazu, we are not creating the impression that before now there was no rice production in Nigeria. But what has changed and what is still changing?
What has changed is this. You see, before the rice revolution, he has earlier said, access to finance is a difficulty. Good agricultural practices is a difficult, it's not there. Good extension services is at its lowest ebb. With the coming of the revolution, the common Nigerian farmer now has access to quality inputs. He has access to good agronomic practices. These are the two factors that can make a better agricultural practice. Good input, good agronomic practices. In addition to that, he is taught, he is made to understand, to believe that, look, this thing you are doing is a business. And they have accepted that. So they have transited from being subsistence farmers to now commercial farmers. These are the things we are saying.
Okay, let's return to Musa. In addition to what he said, you have something to add with respect to what has actually changed in the mechanism, you know, of this rice revolution, because as Kingsley pointed out, you know, it doesn't mean that we didn't have rice production, you know, before this revolution, but perhaps something spectacular happened, especially the empowerment of the farmers, inputs and what have you. And again, I want to add this to the question: was there any assistance, you know, from outside Nigeria, you know, to power this revolution, that powered this revolution? Was there any kind of assistance either from any IFAD or any other world organization that has to do with agriculture?
Yeah. You know, part of what has really changed is that there's basic economics. So demand creates supply. Now, when we are developing, I used to work with CBN and in development finance. So when we were developing the Anchor Borrower program and we were engaging local farmers, I can remember an old man in Bacolori in Zamfara State. When we said, I mean, the federal government is proposing to provide you financing and inputs. His pushback then was, what do we need your funds? When the rice were produced, then the bag of paddy rice was 3,305. He said the ones who have produced have not been bought. There was a glut then, because like I told you, even the processors were dependent on importing brown rice. So only the local artisanal millers were patronizing our farmers, and then their offtake was so minimal. So his pushback was, I mean, we really don't need it, because see what we have produced, we can't sell. Now, when for starters then, part of what the initiative was to offtake the glut. So we mopped up those funds. But you see, before the end of that season, this same farmer that couldn't sell his paddy at 3,305, the price rose to between 9 and 12,000. That between that 2015, 2016. So there was that huge market, because part of what this Anchor Borrower assures, in fact, that is the origin of the name Anchor. This one is anchored on the market. That's, you have assured demand. So that was what happened. So these farmers now, that what's basically changed is that while he was struggling then to sell the little he had produced, now first, like I said, he got quality inputs. So around that season and since then, his output increased nearly 3 times. And then the price too had increased nearly 3 times. In fact, in those localities, consistently, you realize the largest, because for the average rice farmer in the north, the sign of his wealth is trip to Hajj. So you realize that a lot of them, the huge population of those going for Hajj since there have been these farmers. In fact, at a point, our former coordinator of this program was telling the governor of Kebbi in jokes, he was asking him to set up, anytime he's setting up a hospital, he should set up additional orthopedic wards. Then he was wondering why. He said, because a lot of your farmers, apart from going to Hajj, anytime the small farmer gets, some cash, he goes and buy a motorcycle. And then they were, falling and breaking limbs, So, like I said, fundamentally, that's what has changed, that there's market. There's market and there are returns on investment.
Baba, yeah. See, let's again start off with production.
Yeah.
There were always rice producers, rice growers, if you like, whether swamp rice, upland rice, or otherwise. Ebonyi State, everybody knows Abakaliki rice. And well before now, there were at least 2 rice mills somewhere in Ebonyi, one by the state government, the other one by a private person. And if you mention Kebbi, at least 3/4 of the local government areas in Kebbi, those local government areas were under rice cultivation. So what is it that triggered this revolution in terms of, say, I know that you've talked about, Anchor Borrower's program, get better seedlings, get more finance and so on and so forth. Elsewhere in the country, what were the driving factors?
Yeah, well, like I said, basically in business, the driving factor is that whatever you produce has a market. So even in other places, the fact that part of it, of course, advocacy, because in other places, apart from Ebonyi that you said, in the south, virtually everywhere in this country you can grow rice. But because then he has mentioned one of the things, that the farmer is being reoriented to see it as a business. So these are business opportunities. Before, it's agriculture, so it's just for subsistence, and then of course he has no other means of livelihood. Now there is motivation. So this advocacy is going around the country, that even in your places, because the dependence was food comes from the north, so only mostly tree crops are grown there. But everywhere you can grow rice. So that's sensitization. There are farmers, and new and old farmers are being sensitized to come into this, because there is money to be made, and you have the land. Most of them were already farmers, just that, like I said, because traditionally it's not rice they used to produce. But even in other places where they produce rice, now that the opportunities are there, the market is huge, and then you can make money. They have also been sensitized to go into it. So these are some of it. Advocacy has been consistent. So virtually every now and then, and that's why I told you about the numbers from where we started and the millions that are now members, because they are come to appreciate that money is to be made, there is job opportunities for them and their youth, and then they come in droves.
I think one point you made that's clear is that rice can be, farmed or produced in any part of the country. But I want to ask Shehu Mwazu, who is the Director of Operations at Rice Farmers Association, what is happening in the southern part of the country with respect to rice production? Because it does appear that the pyramids that we are celebrating all came from northern part of the country. Do you have members from the southern part? How are they? How they take this advocacy? Has it really taken its root into the southern part of the country?
Yeah, it has indeed. Last year we were in Ekiti. We have launched the Ekiti pyramids, and I assure you that in every state of the federation, including the southern states, we have a large followership, a large membership of this thing. The problem our southern counterparts are having is the area of land clearing. You see, the swamp areas, clearing them is a very, very difficult task for the common man. It is capital intensive. In fact, land clearance issue is one of the basic reasons why Governor Fayemi was awarded yesterday, because he has initiated a program. After keying into the program, agreeing with the program, he has initiated a program of land clearance in his state. He's clearing vast land for the common farmer to go in and farm rice, and that is what we are doing. So you see, that is why we are advocating for state governments to help clear lands for the people where it is difficult for the common man to do it. Similarly, we are telling the rich people, the big companies, that when you clear land and invest, the proceed is definitely coming back. You understand? In the south, they are ready, but land clearance is an issue. But I think with the coming of NALDA too is going to help a lot in that direction.
There's another thing I'm wondering about, Kingsley. They say it's over 1 million bags yesterday displayed in different pyramids. How were they put together? How were they sourced? We learned is paddy rice, isn't it?
It's paddy from
yet to be milled, isn't it?
Yeah, it's yet to be milled. It's repayment from farmers, and it cut across all the states of the federation. This thing we did, it took us 3 months, and it's fully documented. Every day, whatever we do there is documented.
Now, what happens to the paddy rice after the celebration?
Well, what we are going to do is there is a program designed between Refund, CBN, and the millers. Millers will be, this paddy rice will be sold to millers at a discounted rate, so that they will mill it and sell it to the market at a discounted rate. This is where we believe that it's going to bring down the
cost of rice.
Yeah.
Shehu Mwazu, I want to go back to the question my colleague Kirian asked earlier, which has to do with the geospatial spread of rice cultivation in the country. I'm just wondering, there's virtually no state where you cannot grow rice in Nigeria. There's virtually no state.
No state. Every state has
fine. So in Edo State, for instance, when we were growing up, there was Ekboma rice.
Yep.
Ekboma, that's in the Central Senatorial District and parts of the North Senatorial District. People grow rice. I don't know what the state is. Anambra, for instance.
Very well.
Anambra also grows rice.
Yeah.
In Bayelsa, they have swamp rice production. And Ebonyi State, their Ebony rice had been in the market for well over a decade. So what, apart from land clearing, what other interventions have come to these other localities to lead to a spike in rice production?
You see, every intervention that the Anko Borrowers offers goes to every Nigerian that requires it. You see, the culture of rice cultivation is just picking up in the southern part of Nigeria. The vice president of the South-South, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, who is from Cross River, supposed to have been here. You understand? I think you will have been will have been more convinced if he is here and is one that is telling you this. But I'm telling you, there is an equal opportunity for every Nigerian that said, I want to farm rice, as far as the ANCO program is concerned in rice production.
No, I have no reason to be skeptical about what you would say or what you might say. But what is needed to boost rice cultivation in the southern part of the country? That's what we are saying. You were giving the example of Cross River, and that every Nigerian who needs it, of course, gets to access it. Is it that there isn't sufficient, Baba, you're talking about sensitization, which is critical. Is it that there isn't sufficient sensitization, or is it that other southern governors are not following the footsteps of Dr. Fayemi, who has now launched the land clearing program, or just what is happening, or they are into cultivation of other crops?
Honestly speaking, they want it. We have been sensitizing them, but that issue of land clearing in the south is a hindrance. The common man is too much for him to clear a hectare of S1P land, honestly. That is the problem. And the ANCO program, as a program, does not have land clearance as a component. As a component.
What are the components of the Anchor Borrowers program, Baba?
Incidentally, apart from the components of the Anchor Borrower program is mainly funds production process, not capital investment, because I mean the tenure of the facility is expected to be repaid in either one season or maximum of 3 seasons. But you see, land clearing is an intensive, capital intensive operation, in which case, I mean, it's beyond either the association or the farmers to undertake. But in order to enhance that process, the CBN has introduced what is called Accelerated Agricultural Scheme. And that provides opportunities for both the state governments and private individuals to access medium to long-term funds that will be used for land clearing. So state governments have access to that facility. And of course, like I said, even private entrepreneurs that are keen enough, that appreciate the numbers, can access these funds. And then they have a tenure of 7 to I think 9 years to repay that facility. Now, what we expect is for state governments and others, like sensitization is ongoing, but state governments have to take that lead. And of course, too, we also need to emphasize the issue of synergy, you know, in terms of targeted agricultural programs and incentives. That synergy mostly, you know, the attitude of, you know, keeping to yourself. For instance, there are several other forms of subsidies. Now, ordinarily we expect that if there is synchronization between the associations, the Anchor Borrower and the Ministry of Agri, so that you target it, because the next issue that has been recurring is the issue of the price. You say there's rice. Why is the price high?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. I just want us to be, again, you know, I want to have a better understanding of it, just like our viewers and those who may be interested in getting into this. Anchor Borrowers program, what are the critical components? You say it's finance, short tenured finance. It doesn't involve land clearing. Apart from that short tenured finance, there's some marketing element.
Of course, that's what,
yeah. So let's
now that's what I say. Apart from those inputs, they have mentioned that I mean, every farmer is assured of offtake, because you see, in the first place, the farmer that gets this facility repays his loan with paddy. Now, immediately you submit what is due for paddy, for loan repayment. The next thing that you have, or if you submit what is due, whatever you have at that your farm gate can be off-taken, so that the farmer doesn't have to take the trouble of moving them into the market. So that's another component. So refund, because, you know, part of the requirements for this Anchor Borrower is that the farmer contributes what is called equity, maybe around 20%. If it's in cash, the refund has that in cash, and then from its other sources. So once maybe you are entitled to submit 7, 10 or 15 bags. The rest, if you are interested, refund buys and pays you. So at your market, at the farm gate. So those are some of the components. And of course, these are relationship with the millers, and then the coming of the CBN in terms of providing some form of subsidy. These are all part of the comprehensive component. And of course, the service providers and the producers of what do you call it, the inputs. Now, because of the massive opportunity of this anchor grower, there has been an uptake in their production capacity. Take, for instance, fertilizer now. You asked about international relationship. Of course, we have IFAD and others supporting, but we have this relationship with the Moroccan government about providing phosphates for fertilizer. If you see, before now, we are almost totally dependent on imported fertilizer, but the number of blending plants across the country that have been revived, because even that was provided for, there were facilities that were provided by the CBL for the revival, reactivation, and even setting up of additional fertilizer blending plants. Okay. So there has been a local, in fact, increase in local content. Of course, you know the spiral effect is to create additional job opportunities along those lines.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed Babali. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of this conversation much later. And again, to understand why the southern part of the country perhaps is not making the required contribution in this respect. Now, we have just been joined by another guest, Peter Dama. Peter Dama is the national chairman, Rice Millers Association of Nigeria, Raymond. Mr. Dama, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes, in the rice production chain, millers play a very critical role. And yesterday, Nigeria celebrated pyramids that are displayed here in Abuja, and we understand that these are paddy rice. As a rice miller, let us get your own take on this rice revolution. Is there a rice revolution? And if yes, what has it come up with in terms of impact in the entire rice production chain in Nigeria?
Yes, there is a rice revolution. This is simply because right from when this administration came on board, there had been emphasis on the cultivation of rice, and the volume of rice that we have been producing and milling has increased. So there is. You would also take into consideration the fact that the government has taken certain steps to ensure that smuggling of these goods are not allowed. Although we still have some aspects of it coming into the country, but it has been reduced drastically. And as such, Nigerian farmers, Nigerian millers, particularly in the rice sector, are happy with this development. So it has increased our volume. And as of yesterday, you would have seen the pyramids we saw that are being made available to millers. And we believe that if this thing goes round, it will further increase the volume in the revolution.
Well, Mr. Peter Dama, give us a sense of further details of this revolution. Because earlier, Muhammad Ali Baba, who is with us in the studios here, said that in the past, millers depended mostly on imported rice paddy. Are millers having enough local paddies now to mill? And if so, what are the future prospects?
Well, you see, our country, our nation is a very large one. We won't say they have enough, but they have, at least for now they have. And I believe that that would lead further to the production and then add to the revolution. We cannot say that every miller would have, but then what we have seen, the major ones who are active in the field would definitely gain from it. So we believe that production would get higher and higher by the day.
Let's remain with you. In the past, many Nigerian families relied on foreign rice because of what they believe they are destoned, the quality is high, which of course is not true after all. Now that the nation is depending solely on local millers of rice. Let us get to understand the capacity of Nigerian millers in terms of quality of rice made, because some people are still complaining that in some certain bags of rice, Nigerian made rice, you still find stones and other particles that shouldn't be there.
Well, we in our own sector, particularly in our own association, our millers have destoners, and we do destone our own rice and clean it up. There are medulla millers who are yet to acquire some of these machineries, you know, to destone their rice. But we are encouraging them, and in fact, some of them, the modular millers who do not have these equipments, we assist them by accepting their goods for destoning and cleaning. So our own rice is very clean, very fresh, very nutritious, and without impurities. And in fact, I wish you were there yesterday to see the volume that we have produced, what we have supplied, and what we have displayed for Nigerians, you know, to see. And in fact, there was so much rush for people who want to pick up or buy off these products because they have seen what we have as quality products. And I believe that as we continue with the encouragement of government, with the, the engineers we now have amongst us who are fabricating the stoners and polishers, we would get there. We will get very good products. And I want to inform you that, in fact, we, in our own sector, we have subscribed to the Sustainable Rice Platform, SRP, which is, the only way that you can produce your rice sustainably and, in fact, get it exported. Nigeria has already gotten into, that forum, and the chapter in Nigeria would soon be launched. And our association is heading that chapter. We are having, some kind of support from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and at the same time from CARI, a development partner, to ensure that the quality of our products are proper and acceptable internationally.
Well, Mr. Peter Dama, just before we come back to our studios here, what kind of support are millers getting in the value chain for rice production?
Well, as you can see, we have been in discussions with the CBN. We have made the development finance department. They have assisted some of the millers, and they are still assisting. We have been discussing also with NICEL. We are talking of getting some kind of CRG so that we will be able to offtake some of the parties that you see. They are working with us, negotiating with banks, in order for us to be able to offtake the party that has been supplied into the field. Apart from that, we have development partners who have also been helping with trainings here and there, and getting us involved internationally with other, rice councils. We have also been calling for the establishment of a rice council in Nigeria, so that a lot of, our rice matters would be taken there and, dealt with, just like what is, in the offing at the international level. So these are the kind of assistance we have from both the government and then the, development partners.
All right. Thank you indeed. We'll get back to you in the course of the program. Let's return to the studio here, where we still have Shehu Mwazo, Director Operations, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, and Mohammed Ali Baba. Now, that's a point he raised, with respect to sustainability of what we have on hand at the moment, because from all you have presented, it appears that it was the Anko Bora's initiative and other interventions that led to where we are today. Now, without Anko Bora's program and other interventions, because we wouldn't know exactly whether the program is going to continue via Central Bank of Nigeria, or whether now farmers now you have been gotten to a level where you can now sustain yourself. How do we should we worry about the sustainability of this revolution going forward?
Honestly, I don't think we have much to worry about. You see, before the coming of Anko Borrower program, the financial institutions, the commercial banks, are not akin to giving out loans to agriculture as it is happening today. So with the coming of the Anko Borrower program, they are now having a set of belief that the agricultural sector of the economy is an area whereby we can invest. So we believe with the knowledge the financial institutions have gathered so far through the Anko Borrower program, I think it is going to be sustainable. And I don't think if there is, on the aspect of the government, any government that will come and say, let's go back and start importing rice. Because what of the investment that are put in place? So many people have invested in the primary production. Billions have been invested in the processing aspect. So the idea is the financial sector will see it as a viable venture and will continue. And probably the next government will come and continue with it. But I believe...
Why I ask this question is the fact that before the Anko Borrowers program, which was made possible by the Apex Bank in Nigeria, as you rightly pointed out, commercial banks, we are not akin, to giving out loans to farmers because they are afraid of the repayment of such loans. And farmers had this issue of having access to loans. If Anko Borrowers program comes to a halt, how would your members have access to loans from the commercial banks?
That is what I'm saying, that there is a comfort zone or a sort of belief in the Nigerian farmer that the primary financial institutions, which are the commercial banks, there is an interface. We don't deal directly with the CBN. We deal with the primary financial institutions, the commercial banks. Like we, in our own case, we are dealing with Unity Bank. The funds are provided by CBN through Unity Bank. So now with this arrangement, the commercial banks are having comfort that also we can participate in the agricultural sector. So we believe, even if the fund ceases from the government, because of the experience they have acquired and the confidence that has been built between them and the Nigerian farmer, they will continue to provide loans and for the production.
All right, Sheikh Boazu and the other guests, we're going to have to take a short break now. When we return, we continue with the conversation.
Digital switchover project, which is commonly referred to as DSO, which entails television channels switching from analog to digital broadcasting. It's one of the biggest projects embarked upon by this administration. Branded as Free TV, offers its viewers about 60 digital channels, including sports, music, movies, and news. The federal government has licensed about 23 set-top box manufacturers. 7 of them have started production, employing several thousands of people. We've made it now compulsory for all stations in Nigeria to only broadcast productions made in Nigeria for products which are produced in Nigeria.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The Ministry of Works and Housing has the responsibility to help improve the quality and the quantity of the road infrastructure assets, which are the roads and the bridges and the highways. At the moment, we have over 13,000 kilometers of road network under repair, reconstruction, or rehabilitation out of the existing 35,000 kilometers of federal road network. These 13,000 kilometers are comprised in about 850 different contracts which the ministry superintends across Nigeria. We are fulfilling the mandate of our ministry to expand the connectivity of Nigeria's states and by extension the towns and villages through road transport.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Mohammed Ali Baba, who of course works with the president of RIFAN, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, is here in the studios. Earlier you were getting into pricing. The rice revolution in Nigeria, is it a costly revolution? Because at the end of the day, people ask themselves, how much is a bag of rice today?
Well, we wouldn't say costly. It's just the pricing is related to, generally, in business, pricing of every item is related to the cost of your production. Now, appreciate the fact that there has been, the economy has been inflationary. So a lot of those inputs, particularly the ones we've not been able to substitute, are still depend on importation. And we know what has happened to the value of the forex, the dollar that we depend on, So I think the expectation that because it's locally produced, automatically the price will come down. We have to factor in the cost of production. And perhaps rice is getting the front burner attention because it's the most commonly consumed, produce. If you contrast the increase in the price of rice with other agricultural products, you realize that rice has the least increase in pricing. But because it's, like I said, basically it's the most staple food across every table, table in the country. So it takes this front burner and even the attention we're paying to it.
How would you tell the purchaser of a bag of rice in the market? Because the growers grow, off-takers off-take, millers mill, bags of rice, millers mill and polish, and the bags of rice get to the market. I say this is made in Nigeria rice, nutritious, XYZ, and you place your price tag on it. And in some instances, we are still having imported rice. Let's be clear about that. Versus imported rice, Nigerian rice is more expensive. How do you explain that to a purchaser? Sure.
I'm sorry, I still cannot say foreign rice is cheaper in Nigeria because still Nigerians, so they still prefer the foreign rice. But what I'm saying is this, you see, for everything that you have to do for sustainability, for development of your country, there is a cost attached to it. Let me give you an instance. When the mobile telephone is introduced into Nigeria, we were buying a SIM for between 30 and 50,000 naira. Today, you are paid by the companies to use their SIM cards. So this thing we are saying about the food security of a nation, definitely at the beginning, there will be challenges. Nobody is saying there is going to be a smooth ride. No. There must be challenges, and we have to surmount those challenges. Part of those challenges is the initial low output into the system. Then gradually it will stabilize and the prices will collapse. You understand? So this cost is one of the sacrifices that every Nigerian have to do, which I believe at the long run is better for the country.
Okay. And I don't know, Kieran, you know, Ali Baba, earlier you were saying that, rice growers, when they produced their paddies, the prices were low. And then when they were asking them for to take finance or to get inputs, they were resisting. And said, look, our produce that we harvested in the past, look at them, they're all lying here. And you seem to be extolling the fact that suddenly, you know, there are off-takers and the price is going up, they are buying motorcycles, some of them are going also on pilgrimages and so on and so forth, just spending money on consumption. There's a critical thing that we also have to bear in mind. That's why I asked whether this is a costly revolution or otherwise. At some point in Nigeria, we were heavily dependent on cement importation. And if you recall, in the 1970s, the congestion at Apapa Port was a result of the cement armada. Yeah. But ultimately, we got out of that. And now we are told that we have self-sufficiency in cement production. Where we were importing cement, how much was a bag of cement? Today, a bag of cement is around about 4,000. And yet, you know, we are having, we boast that we can also export cement. What are the lessons that we can learn from that cement cost, so that the one in rice, it doesn't, you know, suffer the same fate as it were?
You know, like I said, part of the lessons, you are comparing the price of imported versus local. I bet you, if those importations will come through the post, there will be nearly twice the local production. Every imported rice you find in Nigeria is smuggled through Benin Republic. And why do they take that route? Because they avoid both the duties and the levies that are applicable if they come through the Nigerian ports. So it's the subsidy is actually in terms of the lost revenue that Nigeria has. And then, of course, what do you call it, the revenue that Benin Republic, those are the subsidies that makes any imported rice that comes in, you know, maybe cheaper. Now, part of what, if we truly sincerely want Nigerians to eat cheap rice, the governments will have to talk about maybe subsidizing this production. Otherwise, so long as they are left to the market forces, just like I said, when they started, you know, the price was low because, I mean, nobody was buying. Now, once there is increase in demand, naturally, it's basic elementary economics, that the prices will go on till, of course, we'll reach that, because as the prices were going, more and more will be attracted into it because they've seen business opportunities. And as more and more come into it, of course, that will impact the price. That's elementary economics. Now, if we must, just like we said,
that hasn't arisen in the case of cement.
No, in the case of cement, of course, find, you know, contrast then what was the value of the naira really vis-a-vis dollars. Even the ones you are taking.
The critical element in cement production is limestone. And cement factories are sited close to the sources of limestone.
But so, how about the machinery, the labor, the operations? Of course, we've just reviewed our. In fact, I was making a joke now. Yeah. I say, you know, we've been complaining of unemployment, meaning there's oversupply of labor. Why did we have to increase the minimum wage? Ordinarily, if it's left to that same basic economics, once you have too much supply of labor, we should be talking of lowering the minimum wage. So I'm saying it's not automatic. The minimum wage was increased because the cost of labor itself has to be appreciated in response to the realities of the market. So it applies to every product, just like labor. Ordinarily, now we should be talking. What we are saying is that if we must, Nigerians have to come to terms with it, because we say we are promoting agriculture as a business. And then you still want the farmer to go and produce and come and subsidize it for the consumer. Because that's what you're asking for.
No, let's look at. It raised the point.
Yeah.
See, let's clarify, because the aim is the sustainability of the rice revolution. Because if you say that smuggled foreign rice is available in the market, and the buyer goes to the market and he finds that the smuggled rice is cheaper for him, over time, the buyer may be incentivized to continue to buy the foreign rice. And if there's no purchase of the local rice, despite all the advocacy and so on and so forth, then you begin to have high inventory amongst your rice producers. What happens to the revolution?
Good. You know, part of what we're taking here, he has mentioned the MOU we had with Benin Republic. When Nigeria closed its border, part of it is to teach them lessons of the fact that they have decided to become the conduit for smuggling into Nigeria. So now they have realized the futility of continuously undermining the economy of the big brother. So part of the agreement that we've had with Benin Republic and other neighboring countries is to stop allowing because they know that it's smuggled, which undermines our economy. Because if those, like I said, if those importers have to, ordinarily they are supposed to use our routes. But even if they went to Benin Republic, those goods are supposed to be merely transit goods. They will come to the land border and pay the duties and applicable duties, so it will impact their price. So the Benin Republic have realized that now, and in order to come into the good books of Nigeria, they, of course, are stopping every contraband, every item Nigeria declares contraband from entering the Republic and getting smuggled here. Now the payback is this MOU we're entering, so that we will help them develop their own rice economy. And then they will now export in the spirit of ECOWAS and the African Free Trade Agreement. They will export legitimately, because only goods that originate from African countries are supposed to come in and enjoy those, policies. So that's part of the understanding. So increasingly we're tightening the noose on smuggling. But like I said, once we get to, for instance now, under the oil dispensation, before the coming of this government, you are aware of the GES. Okay? Now, under the GES, the state government, federal government subsidizes inputs by 25%. The state government subsidizes by 25%. So the farmer automatically has this subsidy to enjoy. That is gone. So by the time, if truly Nigerians, we've been struggling about the fuel subsidy. So for Nigerians to get cheap, cheap rice, perhaps that regime has to come in, so that the farmer is relieved of the cost, in which case, the market will be, of course, be saturated then, and then it will impact the price. Increasingly too, when we get into perhaps increasing local sourcing of most of these inputs, because for instance now the pumping machine is almost 100% still imported. Some of these chemicals are still being imported. That of course will pass on, and so long as you don't recover your cost of production, you won't go into that business. So every person that produces will have to recover the cost and then make his gain. Those are basic elementary, factors.
Okay. Well, I think let us not be on this for too long, because demand and supply, determines the pricing of any commodity, any item. But I think Kingsley was concerned about the fact that, look, now we are talking about a revolution. That means that we have rice in abundance. Yet, the price is still on the high side. But from the economics that you have explained, that in due course, sustainability, will now get to a point where rice price will drop. Just like you use the issue of SIM card, your chosen card. I understand that quite well, and many Nigerians understand that too. But because rice is a staple food in this country, everybody wants to see how come foreign rice is cheaper than this. Many families will go for it because they are cheaper and what have you. And you have rightly explained the reason why. Because they came from an illegal source. Therefore, those who smuggle the rice, just get they've already made a gain, by mere dodging to pay, the dues they're supposed to pay. All right, there's this issue of sustainability that you mentioned, and that has to do with also ensuring that more farmers join the queue, and that was why I was concerned about sustainability of the revolution, for us to remain at that level. Right now, how would this development attract more young farmers. If the anchor borrowers does not continue, how would the young farmers now key into, rice farming to sustain this revolution that we're talking about? Both of you can also.
So one of those, part of the objective, apart from producing, part of the objective of this anchor borrower program is financial inclusion. In the past, of course, the average farmer who even approach, he doesn't have access to the bank, so he will even approach them for loan. Now, under this initiative, one of the requirements is that the farmer that will participate must have a BVN. And along with the BVN, he has an account now created for him in the partner banks. 3, we're also encouraging the formation and development of group farming, the group cooperatives, cluster farming, and things like that. And increasingly, once you have that, you have identifiable and maybe viable business proposition for a group, because the average farmer that goes one by one, the banks will find him unattractive. But if you have cluster or a group of farmers under a cooperative arrangement, they have a volume of business for it to be worth the while of these banks. So long as they perform, and with the BVN and account, the performance of their account is known to the banks. So the expectation is that over time, and of course, one of the initial challenges, he was asking about the pillar of anchor borrower. One of the key pillars then was, capacity building. Because part of the challenge we had since the oil boom, both the government and the banks have turned their back on agriculture. So the banks don't even understand agriculture. So that's why they consider it risky.
Okay.
So with the knowledge acquired now,
I will pause it here because of time is against us here. But I want to get to Peter Dama once more on the issue of pricing and the role of millers in this direction. I wouldn't know how much you charge for milling a bag of paddy, for instance. And the thought here is that perhaps milling is also part of why the price of rice is on the increase. What's your take on that?
Now, before I comment, I want to, first of all, draw your attention to the fact that the prices of goods and services all over the world has gone up because of the dollar rate, exchange rate that we have in this, in the country. Again, I also want to point or draw your attention to the fact that most of this rice that is being smuggled into Nigeria, that you claim it is cheaper than our locally produced rice, are rice that are being subsidized by the foreign countries for them to be exported to other countries. And as such, sometimes when they land at our own seaports right into the country, they come in at a lower rate. But in spite of that, I want to bet you, because on daily basis we take rates of what is happening in the market. The foreign rice is not as cheap as you claim that they are. Nigerian rice is still very cheap. Cheap in the sense that it goes for between 22 to 24,000 naira, as against the 30 to 35,000 naira that this foreign rice, do cost in the market. Now, on the issue of milling rice, the cost, you cannot determine that cost, immediately. This is simply because on the day or at the day you collect or you purchase your paddy from the farmer, sometimes it is between 24,000, 25,000, and then the following day you don't have electricity in order to mill. You may have to go on diesel. So you see, on daily basis you have changes in terms of what costs you to mill or produce your rice. So the average cost, per bag might be between 500 to 1,000 naira, depending on the day of your production, whether you did it with light or you had to, get diesel to run your machines. So these are some of the problems that we have, when it comes to milling.
All right, Peter Dama, thank you very much. Back to the studios, Shehu Muazu and Alibaba. Well, the sustainability is a critical factor so that we don't look back and say, oh, there was a time when Nigeria was self-sufficient in rice production and rice consumption. How do we get over the apparent stage of advanced subsistence that we are in now? Because it looks like the rice we are producing now, we are consuming almost immediately. I'm asking this question because there are silos all over the country. Here in the Federal Capital Territory, somewhere around Kwale, you have massive silos. In Berlin, Kebbi, capital of Kebbi State, you have 100,000 metric tons of site capacity for silos, grain storage. How much of our rice is getting into the strategic reserve that could also be used as a price stabilization mechanism when prices go haywire?
Kingsley, you see, right now as we are passing through a process whereby in the past we have depended heavily on importing food to feed ourselves. We wake up one day and say, look, we need to feed ourselves. And we are on that process. As at now, we are at the level where we eat what we produce. The sustainability issue is the issue for all of us. We, as ordinary farmers in Nigeria, we have played our part for coming to this level to say we are producing what Nigerians eat. So it's left for us now as Nigerians, for the business people. Honestly, the business community must cue in, because it is only mechanized production that will reduce prices because of the labor aspect of it that will be removed. Secondly, the millers too, they have to come in. Millers should not entirely depend 100% on sourcing their rice from the market. They have to establish farms to at least produce 40% of their feedstock. So these are issues that will have to be continuous.
I think you made a point here, that millers should as well farm. They should own their own.
That's called backward integration.
Backward integration is a condition. That was the
backward integration.
And because the point Kingsley raised is very pertinent, because if you don't have reserve, on a rainy day, it's going to be very difficult. If you produce and just consume,
that's advanced subsistence.
So it's going to be a problem. But again, I think from what you have said, sustainability is the key word. All right. So you want to come in there?
Yeah, I was saying, but the original concept, this anchor you're seeing, the original concept was actually for millers to do a grower. That was the original concept. But you see, because of the template, the import-dependent template, they didn't have the capacity to do massive outgrower scheme. That was why both the government and the private association were brought in to fill the gap. Because when we started, for instance, there was a miller that was targeting 25,000 farmers, and they started with 500. So what would we reach that level? And so that's why ultimately we had this version where the state governments were, CBN gave money for them to support their farmers, and then ultimately we had to come to the associations. So we expect that template, there has to be enough incentives for both private sector and particularly millers to engage in that backward integration.
And that means sustain the rice revolution. Yeah. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for being our guests in our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria today. Muhammad Ali Baba, Special Assistant to the President of Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN. Shehu Muazu, Director of Operations of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. And Mr. Peter Dama, who is National Chairman of the Rice Millers Association of Nigeria. Peter, thank you for being with us. And by the way, Peter Dama is a retired director of the Federal Ministry of Information. Deep thanks for your insights this morning. Okay, so it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we'll take one of our segments before we call it today.
Sudanese have shattered shops and barricaded streets with burning tires and rocks while staging angry rallies to protest against one of the bloodiest days since the coup derailed the country's democratic transition. Many say the civilian anti-coup mobilization might be taking a new turn in Sudan as the Forces for Freedom and Change, an influential civilian bloc, call to start 2 days of civil disobedience as protesters barricaded their streets. This is coming after security forces on Monday opened fire, killing at least 7 people as thousands marched against the army's October 25 takeover. The protest came as Washington wraps up pressure in a bid to broker an end to the month-long crisis in the Northeast African nation, with top U.S. diplomats expected to arrive the capital Khartoum for talks.
And now time for sports news.
The flames of Malawi, though not too hot to handle, burnt hot enough to almost. However, the Malawi side, who almost did not register any shot on goal, remained resolute in their backline. Mendy, all through the second half, had a lifeline in the form of a penalty call in the 73rd minute. But after a VAR review, the call was cancelled. In the second game in Group B, Guinea reached the last 16, despite losing 2-1 to already eliminated Zimbabwe. Guinea finished second on the table ahead of Malawi on head-to-head record following Malawi's draw with Senegal.
Of course, we know that Ghana has been bundled out of the championship, losing 3-2 to Comoros, who are fresh in the tournament. Nigeria today takes on Guinea-Bissau. Kingsley Osadolo here. Join us again tomorrow, 7 o'clock in the morning. Have a nice day.
And I'm Kurian Omar. You do have a great day.
NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms: